Well, the time is now 10:34, and I have in studio with me Lucy Roux of Paragon Interiors, and she's here to chat about office rentals and poor office environments creating demotivated staff. Good morning to you,
Lucy. Good morning.
Lucy.
Thanks for having us on the show.
Well, we're not talking about feng shui, are we?
No, not at all.
I do remember, I was just telling you that on a visit to Hong Kong, there was an enormous hole in the side of a building which must have represented a huge amount of money in terms of rental, and they could only build that building on that site to allow a dragon to go through the hole so it could go down to the water. But we're talking about something very different here, aren't we? What should employers on the move look out for? It's not all about cheap rentals, is it?
No, I think the number one thing to consider is that, you really need to make the whole exercise of moving offices be an opportunity to send the message to staff that they are valued. And I think the type of building you choose, the location you choose, how much parking is even available. I mean, if your employees go from being able to drive in easily, park in their parking bay and go to work every day without a stress, to moving to a new space where they are maybe parking on the street or sharing parking, or they have to drive around the basement, looking for parking. Small things like that really add up. Also things like changing a person's commute. Maybe someone has decided that this is the company that they want to work for, and they've now bought a house in the area, and this is now their dream job for life. And the company decides to move without maybe asking the employees what areas they live in or seeing how it's going to affect their daily drive. Something like that can really make a big impact. So I think it's really important to do an investigation into the areas they're looking into, what the congestion is like, the building in terms of has it got good aircon, is it a modern building that showcases the brand and is clean and fresh. Those are things I'd look into.
I'm always quite keen on being able to open a window, but that's just me. I quite like fresh air, but it's not really something that one can very often get, because particularly if you're in a high-rise building, is it?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I love having fresh air as well, and we actually try to encourage our clients to try and include some fresh air spaces. So, for example, a canteen area. There's no reason that the whole office building needs to be, using aircon. You can have one space with its own system, and then you can open doors so that people can go have lunch in a fresh air sort of environment. Yeah,
so you can get out.
Yeah, we have that in our offices.
Where are you based? You're in Bryanston?
Yeah, so we're in Bryanston.
Yeah. You see, but the traffic is something that's going to change all the time, surely. And if you, I'm aware that going up and down William Nicol, I read the traffic all the time, and it's really bad, isn't it, if you've got to get into town. So possibly people should look to stay as close to possible, to their work as possible, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I definitely think it needs to be a dual thing. You can't necessarily make decisions only based on your staff or only based on business objectives. I think that's where things start going wrong, because you might, maybe be far from your clients then, or something like that. So, but commute has a very big impact on people. I read some research the other day where they said that you would have to earn 40% more than someone in the same role if you had to drive more than an hour a day compared to someone who could walk to work to make it worth your while.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I in my youth used to travel up and down to London, and that was a 3-hour daily commute. But I used it, and the train was great. I sat there and I read the papers and read books, and it was a useful 3 hours spent, as long as you didn't have to stand around on a train station. But I suppose if you're stuck in a car, then you really are. Well, you are, of course, listening to Classic FM.
Exactly.
Now, I tell you what, we're going to go to our first piece of music, Lucy. It's by Henry Purcell. It's the overture, Dido and Athenas, and it's played here by the English Chamber Orchestra, conducted by Raymond Leppard. Well, that was a piece by Henry Purcell, the overture of Dido and Athenas. and it was played by the English Chamber Orchestra. Now, I have Lucy Roux of Paragon Interiors here to chat about office rentals and how to set up offices when you move. What sort of advice do you give employers and employees about when they are about to move?
Well, for us, the main thing is that in order to have a space that's going to work for your employees and for your company for the longest period of time, it's not so much about getting detailed information from each person and their wish lists for their particular space, because in a year's time that person could be gone and now you have to make changes. So we advise clients to incorporate as much choice and variety into the design as possible. So not to fill up the floor space with rows and rows of desks where people have to be seen all day or they're thought to be not working. Rather, free some people up to become, people who are on a shared desk policy where 2 or 3 people use the same desk during the day, go to meetings, work from home, and rather use the space saved through introducing something like that to provide, quiet rooms, think tanks, telephone booths, you can go have a private conversation, collaboration areas, and maybe even nicer facilities for staff. So a canteen that has, plug points so you can go sit and have a cup of coffee and work there. Because often, clients will invest a lot of money and space into a canteen and it's used for 1 hour a day. So that's the sort of thing that we advise on.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And of course, I suppose you've got to look at the fact that people can expand. And you've got to allow for that. Exactly,
and that's really what's driven the open plan, people adopting open plan, is that you don't have to move walls, you can move people. So if you had previously had a marketing team of 10 people, maybe that's been reduced to 8, and now you've got a bigger team for finance, then you can just move those people along the open plan setting. But with the high number of knowledge workers today, people who are doing conceptual work, where they manipulating words or numbers, it is important to provide those people with areas where they can go do focused work or the freedom to work from home. Otherwise, it can be very difficult to work in those spaces.
It's changing so rapidly, isn't it? As you say, something like freedom to work from home, I suppose there's got to be a certain amount of trust that people are going to be doing exactly that.
That's right. I think a lot of companies are hesitant to adopt those changes because it means a big change in terms of their HR. It changes how you recruit people, how you manage them. You obviously have to put an emphasis on trust and also having difficult conversations. It's much easier if you see someone coming in every day, you assume, okay, they're getting their work done. But if you haven't seen them and you're not getting results, then you have to actually have that tough conversation and say, we expected X, we're getting Y, what's happening?
And do you speak individually to the employees as well to find out what they're looking for?
We do. So we're the first design firm in Africa to have our own in-house industrial psychologist. So part of our process and planning is that we first get the brief from the execs, then we do a walk around and actually go and see how people are working, what filing there is, how many people are watching YouTube videos and not actually working, and then we actually do a survey with staff to find out what's important to them. So we don't ask people, what their favorite color is or whether they like a private office, but we ask them things like, are you comfortable, can you focus, are you productive, and we also ask questions about the organization. So do you feel like there's a community spirit here? Do you feel part of, you have friends at work? And sort of the bigger issues that really add to job satisfaction.
It is quite important. It's not imperative that people should get on. It's just that they should be able to get on with their work, would you say? Or do you think that...
Well, it's an interesting one, actually. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book, The Tipping Point, he talks about how friendship is actually one of the strongest drivers of good work, far more effective than management, because I'm far more likely to do great work and to be on time and to help you with a project if you're my friend, versus if you're a colleague that I find kind of annoying and I don't know anything about your personal life, or maybe you're grumpy every day because you're going through a divorce. And if I've never actually spent time to get to know you, I won't have patience for you and what you're going through. So he actually says that once companies get bigger than 150 people, they actually start to get quite complex because you start losing peer pressure and friendship. And now you have to start investing.
You're a number.
Yeah, exactly.
How interesting. Well, we're going to go to another piece of music here. It's by Leroy Anderson. It's called Forgotten Dreams. The pianist is Alistair, and it was Leroy Anderson, Forgotten Dreams. Now, I'm chatting to Lucy Roux of Paragon Interiors, and I was just so interested in what you were saying about people. It makes for a far better work environment if people make friends and get on. I've always thought sort of perhaps you don't necessarily need to do that just to do your job, but it is an interesting point you made.
It's actually also proven through research. Gallup is a consulting firm globally, and they've got about 17 million people in their research, and they basically look at satisfaction levels of customers and employees, so sort of the audiences of organizations. And they've come up with 12 factors that best predict employee engagement, and so they've actually been shown that if people feel these 12 things at work, they're likely to give their best and work as if it's their company.
Can you mention some of those 12 things?
Well, one of them is I have a friend at work. Someone has spoken to me in the last 6 months about my progress. I have the tools to do my job properly and to get my work done. I work with people who have pride in their work on a daily basis. So it's interesting. Sometimes the softer issues is really what drives you. Salary doesn't come up into I'm paid appropriately is not one of the 12.
Is that so?
Yeah.
That's so interesting, isn't it? Job satisfaction.
Yeah. I mean, researchers actually Gallup, the same organization, they've just released research last year, and I think it's called the Gallup Workforce Study, and they found that 87% of the world's workers are unengaged. So they're just doing the basic to keep their jobs. It's I off to work I go, and not actually passionately committed to their companies and trying to give above and beyond.
It's so as you speak, you see, I just remember me on a train with a lot of people who were just working until they retired, and it was a tick-off point annually that I'm now nearer when I can stop.
Yeah.
And there's grey men who just go up to the city and come back again and don't really engage or enjoy what they do. And I just thought it was always such a waste of a life to be doing that. And it's exactly right, isn't it? You need to enjoy it, but that's an alarming percentage. I must say.
It is. I mean, that's crazy. If you work out the salary bill of 87% of the world's workforce across industries, it's a global phenomenon. It's not just, America and Britain and France. It's literally like countries all over the world.
So following your passion has never been more apt, really.
I think so, but also companies. I mean, part of it, I think, is also that my generation, you're sort of under 30s, we have very high expectations of the workplace. We've seen our parents, give their whole lives to one company and get flowers at their funeral and a pen after 20 years. And I think we see in research all the time that there's a new relationship forming between the employer and the employee. The old one was based on loyalty, and the new one is actually a partnership where it's about shared values and goals and mutual caring and respect. If you don't care about me, I'm not going to work past 4:30.
It's so true. Also, I would add to that is the fact that on social media, nobody ever puts horrible news. Everyone is doing incredibly well. There are wonderful photographs of you looking great, and so that and if you're not happy, you're not really going to put anything up about that. And so the expectation and people's awareness of how well, in inverted commas, everybody else is doing makes for enormous dissatisfaction.
Exactly. I don't know what the word is for it, but they say Facebook has caused a lot of an increase in depression because people just see other people being successful and traveling and having babies, and no one's saying, oh my word, it's Monday again.
You're right. Well, that's a whole nother program, actually. But Lucy Roux, have we got a website for you where people can have a look?
Yes, you can go to www.paragon-interiors.co.za.
Marvellous. Lucy, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.